Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Resident Evil 8.
Do you ever get those morning jitters?
Hello, I was going to say, hello everybody, welcome back to my daily fits.
We were just talking between parts how I'm not sure if this is worse than Chris Heelysing down the stairs, but it's certainly up there.
I love that.
Oh, he was just shaking the slime off of his sleeves after
Oh, that's what
blowing
you were
up
talking
Moreau.
about. I thought you meant there was like a Source Maker video about it. No, when you're just pressing up on the D-pad and you just make him slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a faster way to go up and down stairs.
Yeah, it's like, stair pumping is my favorite way of traveling stairs. I know it drives people insane, but it's like, it's faster.
Now, the moment you finish Moreau, suddenly the village area opens up and a whole bunch of fucking optional
Weird
areas all become available at once, including an optional boss fight against a second one of those giants with a giant club in his own little dedicated little mill house area, which is funny.
And everything was coming up.
I call it the Thrill House.
It kind
So
of feels.
I have a question. Obviously, things are very different when you're playing the game legitimately. Are the doll section obviously is like a 1 hour section, no matter what happens on your first time through. But the Moreau section, is that as short as it is?
Yes.
Do you know what? I
During
can tell you because
a
I've
normal
been
playthrough?
when I started going through my challenges to start unlocking unlimited ammo stuff. I noticed that there's challenges for beating the bosses under a certain amount of time, and it tells you what your current best time is. And when I did my second playthrough, the game told me that I beat Moreau's boss fight in like just under 6 minutes. So it's quite a long fight. Like as far as like that's 6 constant minutes of like making sure you got the ammo, firing at the right times, escaping, and everything.
Well, you got it faster than I did. I'll tell you that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But the Moreau section is about as long as the Dollhouse section. It's not very long.
The Moreau section may make you hesitate at times because you'll want to stop and watch Moreau's timing for the bridges, and then there's that colored bridge puzzle that does take a few seconds to figure out the first time through. But you know, it's a pretty linear section with not much in the way of branching off areas. Basically, it's about as explorative as the as the Dollhouse section. It's really it's weird. There's Resident Evil 8 kind of adheres to the same general structural formula that Remake 2 does, where it's based around these two bigger, more explorative areas, but there's a more linear, set piece laden sort of in-betweener segment that connects the two. But the set piece laden in-betweener area is actually 2 of the 4 Lord areas. So it's just really weird in that sense. Whereas
Because you feel like from a game design standpoint, you'd be thinking, oh, there's 4 Lords, so they'd all roughly be about the same length and section. The answer is no.
No, it's like the two main big explorable areas are the first and the fourth. There's Castle Dimitrescu and there's Heisenberg's factory.
And then Donna and Moreau kind of don't really matter.
Yeah, I mean,
So in a way, would you say like in a way the game's design sort of peaks too early?
it has 2 peaks, and I would say the Castle Dimitrescu peak is higher than the factory. The factory,
Yeah, because I didn't like that. I actually wasn't a fan of the Heisenberg.
No, neither was I. I thought that was
like-
the biggest disappointment, honestly.
I liked the factory. I'm gonna say that right now. I really liked the factory.
The factory. No, the factory's good because it was like kind of like Resident Evil 4 lab kind of thing. It was like like a mix of the military shit and the experiment shit, and I like that. I just thought that Heisenberg himself was done a massive injustice. That's all.
Heisenberg,
Yes, he was.
he could have been handled better. To be
Also,
honest.
he pulls a Joker shit here. It's like, haha.
But
yeah,
I
we
thought-
played,
Which
They
they
already
played
did in
Arkham,
7
thank
as
you.
well. They already did that in 7 as well.
Yeah,
I
so.
think like Heisenberg's concept is interesting, and I think Frankenstein's army was an interesting source to pull from for horror. Unfortunately, the actual creator of Frankenstein's army doesn't agree, but like, okay, maybe you thought the giant Sawblade propeller monster was a random ass thing to include in this game, but it actually comes from Frankenstein's army. So, yeah. But like, okay, I think like one of the things that was kind of a problem in 7 was that, yeah, 7's a really good game. I love it to pieces, but the components, the pieces and parts, all generally come from Resident Evil games that already exist. It felt like visually and conceptually, Heisenberg's Factory was the first genuinely new level a Resident Evil game has had in years. And I like it for that, if nothing else. It's a different spin on the endgame laboratory level that every Resident Evil game has to have by law, but it's
By law. Oh, yeah.
it
Punishable by death.
it's also like you look out into the distance and see Heisenberg's army assembly line being dragged over the air, and it's like, okay, I haven't seen this in a Resident Evil game yet. This is a nice set piece. And then the level carries through with that idea by leaning into the Frankenstein's army monsters for all of its scares. And it's maybe a bit much to try and jam into the same game as all this Gothic horror shit, but taken on its own merits, I think it's a really good Resident Evil level, if maybe a bit drawn out.
Well, yeah, but that's like
Yeah,
saying that the laboratory doesn't fit with the Gothic horror of Resi 4. Like, I think it likes to mix and match
I don't
quite
feel
well.
like
Look.
Resi 4 never ever really had Gothic horror.
Resi
Of
4
course it
stopped.
did. The
Resi
entire
4
Salazar bit is Gothic horror. The whole
Yeah.
bit.
It's not,
okay.
no, because
Giant
that's not, I didn't feel like
Salazar
it was...
robot.
I didn't feel like it was Gothic, it just was in a castle. There's a
Like,
difference.
There's a very different feeling between, say, Resident Evil 8's castle and Salazar's castle in 4, because like the idea of a spooky castle was something that they were going with in Resident Evil 4 during the conceptual stages, but the actual castle they wound up going with when Resident Evil 4 actually happened was largely a comedy set piece. Like, you go from midget Spanish Napoleon sassing you over the radio to an actual literal lava castle level that looks like it came out of a Mario game to a giant robot chasing you across a bridge that's shaped like midget Napoleon but giant. And like there are a few like areas that feel like they could be good horror areas, like the hedge maze with the dogs.
I'm
That
not
was
arguing
nice.
it's good horror. I'm just saying that like everything that you've said, I can attribute to Gothic horror inspiration. Like the statue chasing you is very industrial, and the castle itself, the way it's designed, and the enemies, and like the torture devices and the medieval stuff that's keeping all of the monsters held back and everything. I get Gothic horror from it.
I guess my point is that before you really even got to feel Gothic horror from Resident Evil 4, it had already leaned hard into being inconsistent in tone to begin
obviously,
with. So
obviously, yeah.
it's a little more jarring when you go through 3/4 of a game almost.
Oh
in
yeah, it's
Resident
not
Evil 8.
Bloodborne. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that the elements have been taken. Yeah.
Yeah.
It certainly had a Gothic appearance. I just a lot of the bad guys, I guess, is the big thing. Like there were certain things that, like the knight statues is one that reminds me of Gothic, but it was basically just kind of like culty people
Yeah.
for the most part, which really doesn't feel very Gothic to me. It's just kind of like guys in robes.
It was still
And
leaning
that's
into the
still-
Lovecraft elements without
Yeah,
really
the
being
cult
Lovecraft.
kind of crap definitely has more of a Lovecraft feel than a Gothic horror sort of feel.
But like by the time you're even like slightly into the castle in 4, you know what kind of game you're in for, so it doesn't really it doesn't really bother you, I guess, quite so much when things go off the rails. It does feel a bit tonally wacky in 8 to go from the other 3 lords to Heisenberg and his mechanical army.
At the same time, though, he is talking to you like Nicolas Cage, so maybe you were expecting something a bit wackier.
Yeah, what is that accent?
Yeah, well, I've heard it from others, but I basically just use it myself now. It's the dude from Big Lebowski as played by Nick Cage.
Yes, that's very, very true, and he makes giant mechanical people.
How many puzzle rooms and optional areas are there in this point in the game? Let me see. There's the 2 puzzle rooms here. We had the big area with those few houses earlier by the windmill. And then there's the big mill house that you go through right before Heisenberg's factory. No, right before the stronghold. The factory is after the stronghold. Jesus. Oh, there's like 5 fucking areas to explore before you progress to Heisenberg, all at once.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, yeah. At the same time, I feel like they could have unveiled these a little bit more gradually to you throughout the game.
Oh,
Also, is Heisenberg just like in his factory
this
waiting,
stuff.
like, Ethan, what are you doing? Ethan, aren't you supposed to? Don't you want to save your daughter? Hold it, Heisenberg. I have to pill for everything.
I mean, to be fair, his daughter is in flasks right now. There's not really much in rushing that's going to make that any better, so...
I mean, what parts does he have right now? If he's just like missing
He has
what,
3 of the 4.
yeah, but like what specific parts? If he's missing just like an
He has
arm,
the head, the arms, and I think the torso.
she doesn't.
I don't
need
remember.
legs, just go home.
I don't remember.
He's got pieces.
Well, he also needs all the pieces to actually start
Revive
the
her.
revival process. Actually, it's really weird what Miranda did. She split Mold Baby up into 4 pieces and basically turned those 4 pieces into the keys to a giant fucking chalice that you move 10 feet to the left to unlock a bridge to Heisenberg's place for some reason. And I'm not really sure what purpose that serves.
That's the best way to make a key from a baby girl. That's just how we've always done it.
I feel like we also still haven't processed the fucked upness nature of having literally torn a baby into 4 pieces. Like that's extremely fucked up.
When that reveal was made the first time I played it, it legitimately got to me. It's like, oh well, that's one hell of a twist on the 4 keys.
You're right. But then as soon as it happened, the first thing that I thought was, Ethan, why didn't you wipe the dust off of the thing that you were carrying?
Now, this puzzle room is the only time they do something like this in the game, but it's actually a fairly cool puzzle, and I wish they'd done more with this mechanic. Essentially, the ghouls, you can light them on fire, and your objective here is to light one of the ghouls on fire and lure it into the other room so that it can light another torch for you.
What's interesting is
Or
that
if you
also
have incendiary rounds on your grenade launcher, it doesn't mean anything.
Wait, do you get
No,
incendiary?
there aren't incendiary rounds in this game.
Are you sure? Wait, aren't there?
Yeah, they're just explosive and flash.
Oh, I'm remembering really wrong then, huh? There's
Yeah,
not a bonus
also-
gun that has
Nope.
rounds like that, no?
Not that I know of.
Oh,
So what's interesting is that the ghoul here infinitely respawns, and the key to making you think that you can do this at all is that every time you kill the ghoul, because you think maybe it's going to hit you, it doesn't drop anything.
Yeah.
It's the one time in the
Yeah.
game where an enemy does not drop anything.
haha, you missed me.
Unfortunately, the ghoul can quite easily die before it reaches the torch, so it might take
Which I've had a number of times happen to me. It's like, God damn it.
like sometimes the ghoul stumbles around a little too much and then it falls over dead before it can reach the torch. Bit annoying.
I like how as soon as you solve the puzzle, they stop coming out. It's like, okay, guys, you got the idea. Stop coming out now. Let's just go back home. It's fine.
Oh, thank God.
The treasure in this area is a giant statue of Lady D and, more importantly, magnum ammo.
And it doesn't look anything like Lady D either. It doesn't look anything like her.
Man, I'm
I
gonna
looked
sell
at
this
that son of a
Magnum
bitch.
ammo for so much money, and then use that money to buy more Magnum
I'll
ammo.
Yeah, put the
tell
Lady
you-
D statue inside the
I'll
gun.
tell you what that
Just fire it in a
statue looks
cannon.
like. I'll tell you what that statue looks like. Lady D just got really vain one day and made a really shitty replica of herself on Hero Forge for Dungeons and Dragons, and then bought the double size version.
And then she printed it on a 3D printer.
Exactly.
To be fair, though, that she's kind of middle-aged in this game. Maybe she did look like that when she was younger. I mean, we don't know.
It kind of feels like this entire section exists, though, because they designed a boat for the Moreau section, and the boat got used for 5 seconds, and it's like, no, we
The
put a
boat
lot of
threatened to
work
kill
into
their
that boat.
family.
We put a lot of work into that boat. Let's use it somewhere else, and then they made this river with.
I had a dream
two
that the boat
directions to
kidnapped
go.
my daughter. If I didn't put him in the game, I need more boat.
So,
Well, back we are. Time to sell everything.
yep. Hey, Duke.
Oh, he's holding a Cadoo. Look.
Yeah, he does something different after every boss fight.
How does he get it?
I don't know. He also has comments for like the different boss spoils that you sell him.
Yes,
I don't think he actually says anything about Moreau though.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does. He does. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember what he says, but he does say
He
something.
says, so this, I suppose this might, he says something along the lines of, I suppose this was what one might call the beauty of the grotesque.
Yes. Yeah.
God, that's a lot of freaking ammo that you don't need.
Yep.
I'm just looking at the. I've never actually thought to look at the ammo boxes before. Do they use the same brand of ammo across all the games since 4? Because Eagle Eye shotgun ammo sounds familiar.
I believe so.
They do change up the brands on the boxes from game to game, but generally the colors remain the same. Like green is always going to be the shotgun, red is always the handgun, and that sort of thing.
The game won't let you shoot this guy, right?
Nope.
No, I mean, well, they're.
I mean, you can, but it doesn't do
There
anything.
should be a
they're-
bonus for it.
If you angle yourself just right, you can shoot him in the foot. But if you try to aim your gun directly at him, you'll pull your gun away.
Well, no. What would actually happen is that the bullet would get absorbed into his stomach and then bounce right back at your head, and then you die.
Yeah, that's why Ethan doesn't want to fire at him.
He knows.